Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. Appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Sharing your most precious asset with me, and that is your time. Welcome to the Crypto Lifer Show. The countdown is not on because I forgot something. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I hope so. I don't know. We'll see. I may have made a boo-boo here. Shout out to everybody here on the live, though. I'll be there. I just got to put a suit and tie on. Just set your own countdown, all right? I'll be there. 10-10. 10-10, all right? 8 minutes. Bitcoin getting volatile. Nice little pump, though, to the upside here. What are we going to see for BTC? Yeah. No worries. I have those files, but you know what? They'll come in out of my suitcase when I figure it out. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. Appreciate each and every one of you for being here. First time I think ever that we missed the daily intro, but it's okay. We will continue to push forward. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. And let's jump on in. Thank you so much, Phoebe. How's your day going? Shout out to everybody here. Bitcoin pumping up to 82,800. Nice little short squeeze as we start the day. Shout out to all my beautiful souls and all the beautiful people here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. Appreciate you for jumping on in. So let's take a look here at BTC. We can see there's a key level forming further to the upside as well. And we could get all the way up to 83,050 even. You know, you can see it. I mean, there's a good amount of liquidity here on BOOKMAP. There is a stop. You know, we still got this boatload of people down here at 78,000 that took along, and that's where they're going to get liquidated. But hey, so far, so good for Bitcoin. Shout out to everybody here. It feels good to be back in action, back inside of the studio. Let me regulate this and get everything kind of set up the way it was supposed to be there. Sorry about that. It's new. I'm new. I'm like a newbie. I just entered the studio. You know what I mean? Brand new. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, we do need the light there. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, shout out to. It's kind of nice. It's a nice little touch, right? So let's break down BTC. Last night we had a nice little flag of the 5-minute time frame that I was able to call out. We got a beautiful pump to the upside, and even today I was looking at this. It lost the 200 MA, but once we got back above it, boom, there's the strategy again, back towards the 21 and the pump to the upside. It's amazing how many times a day, how many over and over again you can model this. Bang it, bang, 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 check. You can hit so hard on this idea, man, over and over again if you just hone in on the Sam Price model. Anyway, we got to get, it's going to be like the price dagger or whatever. So now you got a bit of a falling wedge. Just if you're watching the 1 minute time frame, we're going to jump on into our bigger analysis. I haven't even done it this morning. I got in last night at 2 a.m. from my flight to Tampa. I was supposed to fly into SRQ, missed the flight. But thank God, I'm a JetBlue guy, and we knew we were going to miss the flight. We talked to JetBlue, switched the flight to a Tampa flight later on. Had to spend 5 hours sitting in the Tampa airport. I mean, in the Boston Logan airport. But, it went by all right. Had a dinner, sat there. Before I know it, it was over somehow. I said, God, thank you for everything in my life over and over again. Whenever I was just like, I would close my eyes and just say thank you. Whenever I didn't know what to do with myself, I would no, I'm not even lying. I would close my eyes, sit somewhere, and just say, dear Lord, thank you for everything you've given me. And somehow, some way, the day went by. And I got home eventually. A good friend of mine said, hey, I'll pick you up for the airport. It was like almost 1 a.m. by the time I got out of the airport. And I got home, an hour-long drive home from Tampa. It was crazy. So it is what it is. I'm so blessed to be here. Hey, I came home alive, right? It was a great trip. It got extended. I was supposed to be home on Tuesday, got extended over to Thursday, and then the ride home was just, insane. So, could this even be, one of these bigger cups with a beautiful boom to the upside? Looks pretty interesting to be here. Might be a nice scalp of the 1 minute time frame. I don't know if I'm just ready to jump in just yet, but that looks, and right off the bat, we do see a nice candle movement there to the upside. There's a point of control. Got to be careful for kind of a shoulder, a head, maybe some right shoulders that would dump this thing. You see what I see? It could it's just possible, right? I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but just, some idea that could be brewing. You really want to take out this high if everything works, in our favor. We'd want to take out this high, right? Use it as support, get back above 83.5, which is psychological too, the 500 area. Stochastics are aggressive. Can we move to the upside? Price has been heavily volatile throughout the last few days. I am not in a trade at the present moment in time, so we'll see. I attempted to swing the 4-hour time frame, and I did get stopped out on this wick, but it was for $100, so there you go. It was what it was. But the 5 minute had a nice, beautiful pump. That really was the claim to fame here yesterday. It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. I'm sitting here watching price action in the airport, right? Because what else can I do? And I see my baby, right? I see the 21 creeping up, price above the 200 MA. And I'm like, guys and gals, this is it. And honestly, even an entry here with a stop below You know, the 200 MA, every once in a while, in case, I'll find the previous wick if I can. Right? And if I can get that, like, so stop would be somewhere here for me. And entry would be somewhere here. And then, I mean, the ride of a lifetime. One of the, you know, amazing how the trade ends up just paying. You know, even there would have been the, you know, it's likely, I don't know, it's hard. And then look, head and shoulder pattern that dumped. You know, I mean, that ride, you know, alone. But again, we eventually got some type of flag here with low stochastics back to the 21-day moving average, which was my strategy yet again. You know, anyway, just beautiful moves to the upside. Now you can see kind of a resistance of the 200 MA. That's not a good sign. That's not what we're looking for. We got to get back above this. And honestly, if we get back above it, it'll be the exact same thing again. You would look for this to pump to the upside. If that happens, it's just a strategy. You got a gap in the VRVP, and you'd be back up to liquidity again. All right, so looks like we could get this pump. A lot of terror FUD, man. People are letting it really get to them. You know, you have to remember when they keep repeating something. You know, when everyone says it's bad, the opposite, right? The mainstream. You got to just let's let it play out. Let's let it play out. Let's see what happens. Doing the same thing for the last, you know, however many years has given us so many results. Let's do something different for once and see what happens. You know, let's, you know. I've got faith. And honestly, I said, even on Twitter, I said, I'm going to work no matter what. Like, who, you know, Biden was in office. Trump was in office. You know what I'm saying? Obama, you know, I'm going to work. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter what's happening. Jim Rohn taught me, like, your destiny is not who's in office. Your destiny does not make sense just by who writes the law. Like, you are not a tree. You know, you don't have to stay somewhere. You could continue to move. You could continue to progress. Whatever you got to do to make it happen, you could do it. And so, you know, years ago, Jim Rohn was like, yeah, you can't blame an administration on where you are in life. Some people are like, oh, they do this and they do, you know what I mean? This is why I'm not getting ahead, because once you tell yourself that you're the only thing that can get you ahead or get you backwards, my dad said to me, you're your own worst enemy or you're your best friend. Who's it going to be? Right? Working out every single day. That's part of a multi-millionaire regiment. I'm sorry. Like, it's a non-questionable. It's a non-negotiable. All right? Like, you know, maybe today I'm exactly tired, but I'll still take a bike ride at some point and find a way to get myself exercise, you know? So you got to work out. You got to push yourself. You got to feel the vibes. That energy is part of a natural process that will create endorphins in your mind, which will help you become a better trader over time. You'll believe in yourself. You'll believe in your strategies, your ideas. Your mind will be clear. It won't be full of oh no's and what ifs and all the fear that you've had your whole time trading. It'll be real. You'll have something to stand on. It'll make sense. You see what I'm saying? It'll make sense. Boom. 84,940 is a target there for Bitcoin. Key level that we could see the move. Did you work out today, bro? Shout out to Mac Shilsher in the house. Bro, I ride my bike and listen to this show Yo, did you work out today, bro? Oh, you don't care about your heart? Okay. That's what my buddy used to say. My buddy Marcus, every time I went to see him, he's like, oh, so you care about your heart, right? He's like, you did the 30 to 40 minute workout I gave you can do from home? He's like, with no weights and no excuses. And I was like, no, I just chose not to. He's like, oh, okay. You don't care about your heart. He's like, that's cool, man. He's like, okay, I get it. And I was like, wow, like that's coldly awesome, right? Like, a good friend tells you what you don't want to hear. A good friend puts you in your place for the best reasons possible. A good friend shows you the way. And he wasn't doing that and not working out. Like, he was in amazing shape. I saw him go from just kind of regular to someone in amazing shape. He started putting his arms through his legs through his arms, handstands, like moving is like, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, back into the charts. So we're looking interesting here on the 5-minute time frame. These could go either way. It's an ascending triangle. We'll see what happens. It's low volume Friday. I stay cautious on going too hard, but there's a chance if you get a breakout, we could retest and break out to this key level on BTC. Let's take a look, see here. Okay, BTC, USDT. I just wanted to see exactly what chart I'm on so I can do my top-down analysis for Bitcoin. All right, that works for me. So yeah, just still looking at this 4-hour time frame. You know, could you get this bounce? Some type of double bottom. You see it? Like, it's ugly, but it's got some double bottom in there. It could break on out. Anyway, let's take a look at the bigger picture. We've had a few hours since I've digested this information. Let's see if something else can speak to me here. So we know our weekly candle is closing, you know, this Sunday night. We know that's a fact. All right, number one. That's not amazing for a weekly candle close. Let's just start off right off the bat, right? I mean, I'm being honest. We do have this high volume node sticking out there, but I mean, you lose it. It says that 67,000, and this thing is pretty accurate, the VRVP. And so ever since you've lost this level, I mean, 67 has been calling our name. It could be a slow crawl down. We have held this level, though. You know, for now, 4 weeks, we've stayed above 80,500 on the weekly closes. So it's strong support. Can we make this new support here, where these two candles meet at about 82,000 is the question. You know, can we push up further and make this wick way smaller than it is the secondary question. Right now, that's bearish. Even maybe green, but it's, you know, that's a bearish hammer to me. It doesn't look good. It could spell a reversal to the downside, you know. So it's not a fun doji that you want to see. It's not something that I generally like, oh yeah, I'm not celebrating over that key area there on Bitcoin. Got to get back above, preferably 86,156 on the weekly. And it could happen. We could have a huge day today, tomorrow. I know anything could happen. I'm open-minded. But right now, it just doesn't look amazing. There could be a move down to 67,000, maybe even down to 68.8 there. Again, if we break this low, that's when I will commit that things are not too dandy. You know, until then, we're in an uptrend. Even if we go a little lower, we could even tap off support there. But I would not want to see us close a weekly candle below these two candles here, which is about 54,700. If that happens, we are in some type of massive bear market, and things are, you know, we're looking for a lower high, and it's just not looking good. Take a look at this idea. We're in some type of falling wedge that could still break to the upside, but still, even if it breaks to the upside, could take a nasty tumble down, somewhere to about 72,000. You would expect a deep wick down usually, so this thing could dump. We'd have a nasty wick, a recovery. You were scared, boom, right? And then we'd be, you know, it would be some kind of inverted head and shoulder. And eventually we would break out, but not without some more pain here. So we could get pain. We could get a wick down to 68, 67,000. I could see it. We could wick back up and still break out of a falling wedge to the upside. Is normal. Like, this would be a normal move on the 1 hour. See, if you can see something on the 1 hour that makes complete sense on the weekly, you understand how like these look like small and big time frames together? But if you can see something on the 1 hour that looks like the weekly, then you're spot on. You see what I'm saying? You're spot on. You're spot on. So this is the key. This is the key. This is the key. Right? And so as we move forward and push ourselves every single day, no matter what anyone says or does, right? You got to just, man, tiresome attitude no matter what. Like the weekly, I started looking at the weekly a long time ago, right? And when I first looked at it, it was foreign to me. But when you look at it every single day, you begin to create a pattern in your mind, a pattern of routine. And that helps your trading over time. You don't realize it now, but it will help you. The fact that we look at the weekly so much will just honestly have an impact on your subconscious mind over time. So the weekly doesn't look amazing. And if we came back down to this level, even retested a wick, hit this key level here, and then wicked out, I wouldn't be surprised. If we continue lower, I wouldn't be surprised. Right at this point, there's a major resistance on the weekly at 86,008. You know, 86.5, you got to break back above that to remain bullish. If you can't break back above that, then it's just, we're in, it's could double top. So yeah, I see us in some trouble here. 5-day chart not looking amazing. 3-day chart, 3-day chart is the one that could be kind of play ball a little bit. I haven't given up on the idea of this broadening falling wedge that's still somewhat in play here on the 3-day chart. It would have a smaller breakup, but it would still get us somewhere back to this point of control, the 96 to 97,000 BTC. You're still technically low, slightly higher high there, higher low. Could you break out of a shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder here? So this is still, it's still permissible as a possibly bullish reversal back to the upside for Bitcoin. And you could see there's just, this is where they would go head hunting for the shots. So if you were short, you're likely in a stop or liquidation area somewhere above this key level. That's a resistance, you're using 98 as cover. You're probably using 92,000 as cover, and so they're all right there. Okay. There's still also a lot of long liquidations waiting too that could just get liquidated. Look at this. BOOKMAP says we go lower than we go higher, right? They like to hit red. 78,800 will be the key level. I'm telling you, that is it. To the downside, baby. So, do they come and snatch and grab all that liquidity and make the move? I mean, when you're in a pattern, you got to assume you'll stay inside a pattern. So pattern traders will believe that it's likely, you break out, you retest, boom. We get ourselves a move off of 86, 87K. That would be the flip. 87. You flip 87, the next stop is only likely there at 96,000. There's a pathway because we've had some nasty dumps and we could make some, smooth moves back to the upside here for Bitcoin. It's not over yet, but this resistance right here at 87,005 must be broken, right? 3-day chart is revealing a lot there. And simply put, you need no indicators. We're just looking at price action by itself. Couple lines and ideas, We have one other Hail Mary. This is the Hail Mary right here, all right? That you have this pattern on the broadening falling wedge. And you're retesting the top of the channel. You see? This is like the Hail Mary of Hail Marys here. And, but this is the idea that you broke out, you retested this top channel, and again, you haven't fallen back inside the pattern yet. On the daily, you could say, no, technically you did break out, and you're just, finding your way in this area while they basically take out as many people as they can. Again, same key area here. You want to break, it's about, any above 87, but then the daily likes about 87.5 to 88K. This whole wick area. But you break above this, retest 88,000, boom. You can see that next big stop is those areas 94.6, 96,000, and even then back to 105, right? So it's not, if we can hold a higher low here, which we've been attempting to now, and continue some type of really, ugly falling wedge here, still a chance. So that's your bullish sign for Bitcoin. This could break out, retest. So the key is if you miss most of the breakout, it doesn't matter. You're looking for the retest of this key level. And that's going to coincide with breaking above the 200 MA and being away from the 21. And then you could come back to the 21 and get that move. That same idea that I'm going for, but on the daily. So it's until we see that on the daily, it would be smart not to move, just like I don't do it on the 1 minute. This is the gray area where they could easily get rejected. Anything could happen. This is the free area where we could get the beautiful move out. We've got the gap waiting. We've got a retest, So I just keep reminding myself to be patient too and never chase. You see a big green candle you want to chase, but remind yourself of the bigger picture and have a plan. Have a plan. We've also drawn a Fibonacci off this wick to wick, and you can see we wicked off the 618. The 618 has been holding us down here, That was strange, that you would wick off the 618 to come back to it to play the same game, though. So price action has, there's definitely been affected by some insanity. And this morning we had unemployment, which was higher than expected, which, swayed the market a bit too as well. And, that's more bullish for Bitcoin, in my humble opinion. You want to see higher unemployment. You want to put pressure on the Fed to cut the rate, right? Here too, like kind of look like a shoulder ahead of right shoulder. This looks like a shoulder ahead. You know, it has some head and shoulder vibes. As a trader, I've seen so many times without, like, you know, dismissing it. You don't want to dismiss what you can see right there. So, like, it definitely has some head and shoulder vibes there. You know, it tells you got to break this resistance. Just heavy resistance at about 88, 88.4, 87. Why even up to 88.5 here on the 4 hour, you can see was that local. You got to bust through. And we were on our way. Things were looking amazing. You flip on the 200 MA, and that's just been our main resistance point here on the 4 hour time frame. And you can see why the 200 MA is such a key component of my trading. It's like when we let go and get up, you know, a huge move can pump. It's when I can tell you when, you know, likely to take some profits when we hit it. Like, that is a key area. If you look, depending too, if you're looking at the stochastics. So again, Bitcoin doesn't look amazing to me. The 4 hour looks horrendous, to be honest. I'm going to get rid of the moving averages for a second. And, you know, the 4 hour, you kind of see this. It looks somewhat like a head and shoulder, right? Looks like a high, a low, and a lower high that maybe you want to take out the low. Interesting. So, yeah, and I mean, you got tight moving averages, which is somewhat of a good sign with a double bottom. See, let's talk about the double bottom here. So you seem to have some strong support right there. For whatever reason, couldn't break 81.5. You break 81.5, you're likely dropping back down somewhere to 76.5. Like, it just looks like you'll take a tumble. Maybe a double bottom at 78.5. But, like, you can just see there's not a lot of support down there. You got to make... So you really... Just to get the ball rolling, you got to break 84,000, you know, 375 there and retest this point of control. Still keeping this idea that the daily is attempting to bullishly retest the top of the channel. I saw this like 18 months ago. The daily did this exact same thing. It broke out, faked the breakout, came back down, played games, hung out, bounced, hung out. And it just kept, you know, making you not believe there was going to be, and then it eventually did let go. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just getting some deja vu moments here. I don't know if you remember it. So somewhat of a double bottom here on the 4 hour time frame. Let's trace out what that would look like just to keep our minds at ease here. So it would be, you know, this would be what we'd be looking for. Somewhere up to about it, you know, this would be amazing. 92K, you know, we get it, just a beautiful measured move. And you get that measured move from like here to here, and you flip it to, you know, you might get a little more push up depending on your support and resistance. Like, it looks like we may get all the way to 94K. This is a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure. I'm just showing you what could be, right? Now, I could trade this and say, hey, but you know, there's no guarantees it's going to rip. You know what I'm saying? There's no guarantees. But it all depends. Right? It all depends. So let's move to the 1 hour time frame. Now that even looks sloppy, Joe. You know what I mean? And you didn't get above the 200 MA. And to me, that's just what it's really all about. Getting back above that 200 MA. And this has a head and shoulder pattern right here, right in front of you right now. And you're getting this like bearish move. So what would I do today? Well, it's a low volume Friday. The world is in shock from Liberation Tuesday, or right, whatever. And, you know, Bitcoin's faring a lot better than other things. The rest of the market technically holding up pretty good because Bitcoin's already been through some of its own kind of selling times. But I have to be honest, like, it doesn't look amazing. You'd put this trend line up, you'd put this trend line down, you'd call it a symmetrical triangle. That's what I would do. And you'd say it can go 50-50. And most of these have been breaking down more than they've been breaking to the upside. So it's more likely that this heads, I don't know, 78,500 instead of up to 88,000. But you never know. And then we just kind of identified a head and shoulder pattern there too. 50-minute has a bit of an M, just like we traded an M like this Where was it? Where did we trade that M? It was on the 1 hour. Yesterday, we traded an M pattern to start the day. Let's see where the 1 hour is. Where's that M that we traded for gains? There it is right there, right? No, that M was at, yeah. There it is right there. So we took nice gains yesterday morning on this short, right? In the trading group. Stop loss here, boom. That was like the main bacon on the beach there. Then we called the 5-minute swing. The 1 hour even I showed looked bullish for a bounce back to the upside. Got a nice pump. Gave it all back with, 6 a.m. Crazy. Getting at the pump and then that 8:30, pump and then dump. And now we're dumping. Interesting, right? With a bearish engulfing candle here on the 1 hour time frame. So heavy volatility. Not my favorite day to trade on Friday. I'm also on, very little sleep. You don't just go rush into trades after you've been traveling all day and barely slept. So, but you never know. I'll say that and then I'll be in a trade tomorrow in an hour back. I got this. If you see the model, you take a model. It's very after you've been trading for, as long as I have, you just do what the bot in your mind tells you to do. You don't use emotions. But the bot in my mind even tells me, hey, you're not a bot. So you should ease your mind. That's why I got a bot working too. Whenever I take the day off, the bot's always grinding for me. So resistance at the 200 MA here on the 15-minute. Somewhat of a sloppy head and shoulder pattern that just doesn't look good to me. Doesn't mean it's going to dump for sure. Let's take a look at our smaller time frame for some insight. A possible flag here back to the upside again. And now we're just in this range. 1 minute time frame attempting to bounce but doesn't look amazing. So it's the same story. Can you get back above the 200 MA? If then, yeah, you'll pump up to liquidity. That's a possible trade right there. But do you get the bear? It almost looks like it wants to get a death cross and just continue to dump. These generally are more like a bear flag. So you would get a dump here somewhere down to about 80,000, right? So I'd have to say it looks more bearish than bullish. And on days like that, so when I see it's more bearish than bullish, I have such a great strategy. I just sit back. Now, if we break the 1 minute 200 MA and we get kind of funky, okay, that's the first leg. I'll flip to the 5 and I'll do the same on the 5 and I'll take the trade. Here it did it, but it never pulled the 21. You need the 21 on top before you get inside. So key. Right here. This was bread and butter style. You execute that. Every time I see that, I go for it. I strike. You could trade that once a week and walk away. You know what I mean? If you wanted to. But again, I feel like it's got to be taken way more to get the real strategies that you want out of it. Right? If you don't go that hard, then you'll miss it and you won't be able to get it. You see what I'm saying? So bang. So can we watch this flag break to the downside or to the upside? That's the key question, is what I'm always looking at on BTC. Okay. I always have one of my buddies making fun, having fun making fun of me, man. In a good way, making me laugh. So, that's bearish. You couldn't get back above the 200 MA. And this looks like a bear flag to me. Some head and shoulder action here. So I see no reason to long Bitcoin. Unless the 5 minute or the 3, unless the 5 minute broke back above the 200 MA. If that happens, fine. And I'll miss this huge pump. So what? I'll miss 82.5 up to 83,000. I'll give them 600 points to solidify the move. Right now, that looks bearish, and that looks like an M pattern to me. That wants to break further to the downside too as well. So I see downside for BTC. If anything, it would be a short entry here, stop above this, key liquidity line, and see how long you could take it. 2.63 risk reward ratio. So I see short. I could be wrong. It could flip back to the upside and stop it out in a second. It is Friday low liquidity. I know nothing but the fact of my own ignorance, but I do see possible short for BTC here, going down to about, 80,650 would be the target, and 81,400. Right? I would love a bounce. There is that bounce on the 4 hour. Possibly it's a double bottom. If it is, we'll catch it on the 5 minute time frame. It'll break back above the 2, the 21, and again, the sauce will be ready to rock. In some way, we don't know exactly how it's going to look, but we know it's going to be there. And I've seen all the not everything, but I've seen thousands of variations of it at this point, day in and day out, year after year. So we'll see. I wouldn't open up a trade at all. I would just observe. If it dumps, it dumps. So be it. You don't have to get a piece of every single move, every single time. If that's your thing, you're probably going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time there, buddy. You're going to have a hard time. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. If you want to join the trading group and look at all the calls we made, even just in the last 2 or 3 days. Heck, I gave a call yesterday in the airport that was stone cold, Steve Austin style. It was just amazing. Go to CryptoLifer.com, subscribe to a monthly, a quarterly, or an annual subscription. I can't wait to see you inside of the trading group. I am here every single day, even when I take a quote-unquote vacation. It's never a vacation. I streamed more when I was traveling than I usually did. I did 6 streams in 3 days, Saturday through Monday night. We ripped it out. We had one of the biggest streams ever. It was amazing. God bless each and every one of you for always supporting the lifer, always holding it down. See, that was the bullish scenario. If we could, we did not. You see what I'm saying? Like, we didn't get the bull, that dumped. That double topped on you. And so I stick with where we're at here. And again, right, either thing could happen, but I say the probability is short. So I am calling a short, even though here's the guy that puts 2 lines and disappears one. Someone said, come on, man. I'm calling a short here, more likely. I would love it if it bounced. If it did, that looks like the trajectory, but it looks bearish to me based on the M pattern. I could be completely wrong. I know nothing but the fact of my own ignorance. BOOKMAP also is suggesting a dump further to the downside with liquidity to about 80,009 and possibly back to 78,900 for BTC. So it doesn't look amazing for Bitcoin at all. But again, it is what it is. One step, one day at a time. Let's take a look here at the bigger picture. At my old friend CoinMarketCap. Wow. And we'll take a look at the bubbles too as well. Unbelievable though, right? So here we are. Atom up 15%. Interesting enough. Crazy. People are staking Atom, I guess, in this time, and it looks like a better asset. It's better than the dollar. Stronger than the dollar, Solana back to 116, dangling for dangling. Like, just, wow. My goodness. Cardano, Toncoin, Chainlink. Like, these coins are an absolute steal right now. 220 on, that's when I last grabbed Sui with 220. Back to my buys, man. And that was like a nasty day. Let's take a look at that fear and greed. Send me lower, baby. I feel like I'm feeling like a 15 today, not a 28. It was lower yesterday, extreme fear. I felt like the prices were higher. Anyway, Bitcoin getting a bounce, is it, right? No, yeah, getting a dump. Starting that move down to the downside, already in the money slightly on the short. And on that, break even trader, bring that stop loss to break even as soon as possible and never be upset. 28 on the fear. Extreme was 25. We somehow got to 44 on a little bit of a pumpage. People were like excited for some reason. Interesting times. Very interesting times, right? Yeah, so nothing to write home about. Let's take a look. I just like to see on the 1 hour, is anything up? I mean, XRP is up 2%. People felt like these are good, up 5%. So look at, I mean, all coins are bouncing. Jupe up 7%. People feel like these are the lowest. Jupe at 38 is so sad though. Like, how could I, held something for years and years? I heard like bull flags or something. That's funny, right? Anyway, that is dump peasy to the downside there. That short is now paying you like an M pattern should pay, and there could be, there's money out here. There's opportunity every single day here in the market. I'm going to show it to you, whether it's long or short. I'm going to find out. It took me a while. Like, I had to sit here. I dissected price action. We found out what mattered, and we got to brass tacks, and we're able to absolutely nail it here. But not without each and every one of you showing up every single day, not without the constant support and love. I don't know how, honestly. So blessings to everybody here. Let's get those likes up to the watchers. Let me jump back into the chat. If you're making gains on that short, let me know. It looks like it's getting better and better, baby. All right. Sign up if you want to trade with me, but make sure you know what you're doing. Demo trade for at least, I'd say, 100 days. You know what I mean? 2-3 months of demo trading before you touch anything. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I highly would advise myself to use demo money, because sometimes it's just like you're not sure. You'll do different things. It's just a better idea. XRP doesn't look good to me. I mean, I wouldn't touch it unless it broke 256 and retested. I just got to play it safe. You might be buying the absolute bottom here on some type of amazing recovery, and it flags out. But I see a giant head and shoulder pattern that could really do damage. Back to 91 cents. I could be wrong. That's just what I'm looking at. Life for bringing the heat on No Sleep. Shout out to my man, D-Gen Friend in the house. There's no excuses not to show up for your job every single day. It doesn't matter if you got delayed. It doesn't matter if it didn't happen. It doesn't matter what happened. You must have I was listening to Neville Goddard the whole time in the airport. I was finding, mental health, pre-acquisition, and it was like, one guy was like, don't stay away from sugary drinks and alcohol. He's like, alcohol has no place. Again, this was like an older version of like, what Jim Rohn talks about. And I'm like, here it is again. He's like, it will deplete you. It won't make you amazing. It'll do nothing for you. If you have a true goal and you're really going all the way to the upside, alcohol will do nothing but make your brain mush. It won't, it's at the moment in time, you do not need it when you're progressing to push yourself to your farthest, highest abilities. It's like this guy, old school voice, and you're like, and he's like, and he just reaffirms what I stay on. The second I quit drinking, I haven't had a drink now, and I think it'll be 5 years this November. 5 years this November. Hold the applause. I'm not that amazing. No, but seriously, and I didn't have a huge problem with it. I just wanted to say enough is enough. There's a reason why they got everybody doing something to bring your frequency down, to bring you down. And this is a nice short cooking now. I'd already kind of shave a little bit of the stop now on the trade. I'm always shaving risk if possible. That way, we want to see this puppy come further to the downside here. Let's take a look at the DXY. You think the DXY would bounce after getting completely demolished? And so there it is. It is getting about, nothing goes down straight like that. I mean, that was a nasty dump for the DXY. You can see it. And now we're getting a bit of a bounce here back to the upside. Could the DXY hold it right there and make a recovery? Now, the sad thing is Bitcoin didn't pump as much as we needed it when the DXY dumped. And now it could dump when the DXY pumps, which is crazy, right? It's like, why didn't we get what we were looking for? But the DXY may be holding its level here and get a move back to the upside. Exactly. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. Appreciate each and every one of you. That thing looks like it's going to continue to dump further to the downside here for Bitcoin. Take a look at your 1 minute time frame. Yeah, you lost that 200 MA, and ever since then you bearishly retested it. So you lost the 200, bearishly retested. Dumb. I don't tend to trade Friday afternoons. It's Friday, and I'm on no sleep, so I'm lightly staying off. I don't want to ruin my P&L chasing, and be like, if I lose today, I'll write in my trader diary, traded super tired, just got home from traveling all the night before, And I say that makes sense. Yeah. Exactly. He said on CNN, what is CNN there? I don't know which one. That's actual CNN? I don't know. I hope you're not. That's, no. That would be. Yeah. He couldn't be, right? What happened to... I tell you what, I had CoinMarketCap up over there. Now I don't know what's going on over there. Nice pump for Bitcoin back to 82,000 though. Steamrolling. And again, I'm basically what's called a long scalper. I do the same thing every day and wait for the same similar opportunities over and over again. Okay? If I see the same thing, I'll take it. Like today, if we bounce and get back above look, that looks like an inverted head and shoulder that could be bouncing beautifully. You don't have to, and some people are like, oh, I called the bottom. They buy right there. But on low volume Friday, it could all change so fast. Right now, this is kind of bearishly retesting the bottom of the trend line. So you want to see price action. Now if it breaks back inside, we're good to go. And when price breaks back inside a pattern, it likely comes back to the top of the pattern. That would be a stopped out short right there, right? Again, I would not trade Fridays. Shady days to trade. Look, no follow through, and they went after anyone that probably went to trade that. You would have seen me caught up there playing games on the trade. Fridays are not your friend, especially after non-farm, unemployment, all sorts of nonsense. A little bit of a bounce, but 30-second attempting to go above. And I just, again, my 5 minute maybe. You crack the 5 minute 200, I'll take you seriously. And you know why? I found I use the 1 minute, I do, but the 5 minutes the best, especially for beginners. And again, what if this, it didn't stop out yet? You never know. It could be a rejection and a dump. Could still be kind of playing games right there. On what, the 5 minute, it's like not technically in the pattern yet, Again, I would love a bounce. I always want Bitcoin to be more bullish than bearish. But what I want doesn't matter, right? What the charts convey matters. And I got to make sure I'm paying attention to the charts and not my emotions. And that's the key component to trading. Once you learn the technicals, you got to learn yourself. That takes years. Years of balanced focus and thought. Not something that happens overnight. Never will be, never, That's why everyone wants what the long-term trader has, but you can't. You just can't. It's not something that can be gained overnight. It's not something that you can find fast. It's not something that happens immediately. One step at a time. One level at a time. All right. Everything all right? Okay. So you always got to check, make sure everything's all right. In case you need to step in and lay down the law, you know what I mean? You never know. So possible flag here for Bitcoin back above the 200 MA would be how we get out of this. If we're bullish, we'll bounce. If not, we'll just dump completely down here. This will kind of, you know, philander off. If we're bullish, somehow we'll flag out and get a bounce. I've just watched it too many times. We get above the 200 MA, then we start to cook. Now I'm paying attention. And then, you know, it's funny. If I see a model, I'll trade a model. As much as I said I won't, right? Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. I went back to my hometown. Spent time all by myself. I wish anyone could do that. You're with you have a family, 3 kids. But you fly back to, you know, a home, small, tiny hometown too that you know. Like 15,000, 20,000 people or something year round that live there. In the summer, it blows up to like 100 some odd thousand people, but it's still small. See, even that looks bearish to me when I just kind of glance at it. You know, I got these vibes, these descending triangle vibes. They got to show me something. Bitcoin's got to show me something first. That little flag is breaking out just as suggested. Pretty crazy, right? Your mind will see this stuff over time. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. I'm just a guy using his brain. And every once in a while, you'll see something that I'll show you that will make you go, wow, I learned something from this guy. I know I could teach you. I know I'm like a fly fisherman that's been out there in the river for a long time. And there's a way to just flip your wrist. I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm not saying I'm the greatest trader you've ever seen. You know, and you know what I learned about success is I can teach you the most thing about success. A lot of people out here on YouTube, I don't really know what's going on in the background. We don't know what deals they made or who they're really serving. I can tell you right now that I serve God as my, you know, God is my witness. I love God. He got me through the horrible passing of both my parents suddenly. Without God, I would not be here strong as I am. Pushing forward every single day with each and every one of you. I just know that this show is propelled by an energy greater than me that I tap into every single day on the stream. Doesn't matter if I've had an hour of sleep. It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter where I've been. It's the energy between each and every one of us, the high frequency vibration that brings us together, that melds us together. That's the yarn that creates the lifer quilt that we're all a patchwork part of. Right? The yarn of the lifer quilt, we are all a patchwork part of that I must have just come up with. But it's true. And I feel a part of something bigger than myself, like as if I'm connected to a, you know, an ethereal essence that we've created together. And again, people would say, yeah, yada, yada, yada. But it's true. And lifers around the world unite, and it creates a really strong bond. And once you get the trading side of it on top of the energy and the vibrational, it becomes just a full-fledged feeling of unbelievable gratitude. Because you're just like, wow. I see how gratitude and the full idea came full circle with my trading. You know, trading needs the gratitude. You know, a beginner will get into a trade, make $50, watch it pump, and the whole day be going over, wow, if I'd still in, I would be at $450. And it never even really acknowledged the win of $50 and say, wow, thank you. I've done this like maybe 30 times in my life, and I've only won a few. Like, this is one of my biggest wins. Instead of realizing it's one of their biggest wins, all they realize is it could have been bigger. And they lose the chance to grab on to gratitude. You know, I was playing poker with someone the other day that hadn't won many hands. And he's like, man, I'm getting the worst hands. I haven't won anything. And then finally there was a hand he had pretty good at, and people kind of read it because he hasn't, you know, and nobody wanted to play, and he pushed the pot kind of a little early, and he won. They didn't win a lot, and he's like, damn, I didn't really win that much. I was like, yeah, but you won something. I'm like, now you have a chance to be grateful. I was like, every time you're grateful, more will come to you. I was like, so just even a little bit of winning will create more winning, because now you can be grateful. You know, before you didn't really win any pots. There was, you know, you can be grateful that you're there and happy, but at the moment and as you're winning, you know, so And I was like, but now you've won a pot. And literally he was like, and he looked at me and I was like, that's how you got to look at everything, even life, you know. And I wasn't trying to be too preachy, but he was someone I knew well enough to open up to. And I felt like he got the message. And then literally, like, you know, 30, 40 minutes later, he had a better chip, way better chip count. He was doing better, and he was like, wow, you know. And I was like, I told you about that gratitude, man. And he's like, you're right, 100%. So, and he taught me something that day, because like I always knew it, but I hadn't really reaffirmed it to myself. And so watching that whole process was like, yeah, like I gotta stay in a state of gratitude for even the smallest things, because that's how that's how the biggest things occur. So look at this. This is the move that you're looking for when you cross the 200 MA on the 1 minute. Look, it's a shoulder, a head, or right shoulder. This isn't the little model that I work on, but you know, the 21's far away. I'm not feeling it just yet. I would love a pump to 83,000. It is Friday. That's why I trade this on the 5, because it's going to be a lot harder for this to happen on the 5 minute than it is on the 1. And so show me your bacon, you know what I mean? Show me the move here. So the long position would be maybe somewhere around here with a move back to 84.5 and a stop below that area. Again, it is Friday. I may not take it, but at least I'll begin to map it out and take a look if it's even worth it. How high I would have to go to get, you know, really that would be the area 84. So already it's a little too risky, where I have to put the stop and how the ratio is. It's like a 2-to-1. So unless I was comfortable with 100 for 200, the trade's a little sketchy to me. Sad to say, sometimes that's just the case. It is bullish though. Look at this bump up to 83,000 for Bitcoin. Massive short squeeze for BTC here. And the M pattern did look pretty nice. But remember, if you cross that 200 MA on the 1 minute time frame, it's not a smart move to be shorting price action. And you go to that one and you can see you crossed. I mean, and my students know that's a no-no. You know, that's a no-no right there. You don't short when you see that. A lot of people don't use the 200 MA. They have no idea they're in a short. They lose constantly over and over again. I may have just saved somebody's entire account here once they add that. And they're like, well, I don't even know, Lifer, how to do that. I'll be nice to you. You go up here to indicators on TradingView. You type in MA. You go down to moving average simple. It's to be the 9. You double click on it. You turn it yellow. You hit inputs. You turn it to 200. You don't do anything else. You'll have the 200 simple moving average ready to go, all yellow. I like to just go one click over here, hit the style, and make it a little thicker so it's you know, really can be seen there. And look, there it is right there. Look, you got rejected by it on the daily and dumped. And sayonara, right? With high stochastic. That's what you're looking for bullishly. This is the model right there on the 1 minute, the bounce boom. But it's the opposite. Understand? It's always doing the same thing. It just looks different to us because we're on the other side of it all. Wow, look at that huge pump for Bitcoin right to the target. Insanity. As it crossed the 200 MA on the 1 minute time frame. So far so good. You're like, okay, so can you do the same thing on the 5? Wow, look at that. That's a monster candle. Boom. And I'm not going to say I didn't have that short out there. Look, the short was in the money. Could even move the stop to break even, taking it. You know, you never know. On Friday, I'm to break even very, very fast if you watch me. That's why you're so blessed, my man, right there. Right? Yeah. So let's take a look at the CME watch tool and see if there's been any pressure on Powell. And just, you know, because that'll have a pretty good handle on what we're going to see for our next rate. And it's going to be a while. It's in 33 beautiful days. And Bitcoin just absolutely soaring back to the upside. I mean, now we're at almost a 50-50 chance here. And that tells me that there's a good chance we do get a rate hike on May 7th. I'm a rate cut. That, you know, there's a lot of pressure on him right now. The market is seething. We're in an odd spot for sure. So a smooth move down, a massive move back to the upside for Bitcoin. Definitely a bit of like a, you know, I would say a long squeeze followed by a short squeeze to entice the shorts on the short, right? Still just a crazy move on a Friday, so just be careful. Like, I wouldn't get overly euphoric on anything, but it's better than nothing. Like, it's like, okay, you know, we could just be dumping right now all the way to the downside. Like, okay, that, you know. Remember, I bought that Bitcoin at 84,000. We're just hugging it. We're hugging these key levels. The altcoins are getting bagged on. They're you know, hoping for some type of bottom here for Bitcoin around 80K. The whole market is wondering where we're going, what's happening. We got to get a flag here on the 5-minute time frame. If we could get a flag here on the 5, you're telling me there's a chance for a move back to 84,800 for Bitcoin. Not a bad play there on that 1-minute time frame. I bet there's some people out there that took that regardless of Friday trading, but God bless you. All right. Get in now or get left behind. Short squeeze incoming, somebody says. I'm just reading the comments. Yeah, I mean, 83,000 is kind of a key level. This whole area, you know, you could go lower. And again, it could be a nasty dump. Hey, look, resistance. We seem to just hit a resistance on this 5-minute time frame. Bang. Another top. Almost a double top there. I want to see if I could see it differently here. Hold on. I mean, right there, too, you get like this descending vibe. See that? I'd say you got to break back above 83.4 or 83.5 sooner than later. Otherwise, this is just a mockery. In the muck. Right back to the downside, too. So, but that's why scalping on that 1 minute is key. In and out, you're done with the day. A couple here and there, and you're done with the day. You know? 1 minute, we hit top ERP hit levels. Yeah. Yeah, long or short, as long as you calculate your risk, you'll be fine. Amen. Amen. I like that. Shout out to Mike Crypto. God bless you. Shout out to Hopium Copium. Shout out to Blockchain Poodles. Shout out to all the beautiful people here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. We love you. We thank you so much. Shout out to the fan funding here. We have Tripto Boys. Welcome to becoming an exclusive lifer. Thank you. We have Fear and Greed on 4 and CNN. So right, thank you. And we have Dogecoin running Famo and Robert Angel. God bless all of you awesome people for being here. God bless you. Thank you. Good people, man. Good people. Shout out to Rave Song Records in the studio today. I hope his cut goes well. The dude is always grinding, having fun, and living his dreams. He's one of those people that will always just spread light, loving happiness, and just live his life. You know? And, you know, old school, baby, old school. He's not here today, but he actually sent his regards to all the lifers. It tells you he loves you guys and he cares so much about the group. He's very, very, that's a blessing that we have people like that cultivate a high frequency and hold it in their hearts. And I don't care. Some people might spit their coffee out and think, oh my, but it's true, man. When that many people care about something and hold it in their hearts, like it generates a vibration, right? Because we care about it so much. Mastermind trading, you know, groups on the right frequency create good vibes. So is it time to sell everything, sell the farm, sell the house, sell all the crypto? Or is it time to sell all the farm, sell the house to buy some crypto? That's the question. For me, it's stack season. Like, I would still be stacking some Tether, right? Just you know, I'd be half, if I had no crypto at all, I'd be slowly DCAing into something again, but I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say and do should be taken as financial advice. If I was already in early like we were, like the prices are still higher than we paid. So we're still kind of in that zone where it's, you know, not the best, not the worst, but can we withstand the storm? Let's see if we can get this move in the 5-minute time frame. Anything is possible for Bitcoin, or do we continue the melee to the downside? This will have a lot to do with today. This dumps later on, then we got to work our way back up, blah, blah, blah. This goes sideways. We are on the way out. That's going to tell you in about, you know, 5 to 10, 20 minute, you know, about 5 to 20, I'd say 10, 20 minute 5-minute candle. So that's why I like the small time frames. They're going to give you an answer pretty fast. So once you have my strategy down, the quantum, you know, which way we're going to go, then you kind of start figuring out what's happening and you go from there. So I take a look at weeks here, and you can see what's forming now on the 1 minute. It's now, that's the bread and butter right there. That's the flag. And see, that's why I love that. I really like that Bitunex, because I could be in the trade technically faster than Fast Sauce, you know. Now, Friday trading Sketcherino, but I mean, that's just, I don't know. It's hard for me to say no to that. It's really hard for me to say no to that. I'll even see if we can stretch it up. So I'd be going for 84,924. And I'd be looking for a stop at 82,520. 82.5, really. So why not 495, right? Technically breaking out already. Lame odds, though. 100 for 200. Really just not a great trade. You know. And I'm tired. So it's kind of like, do I do the right thing and not trade? Will the stochastics say yes? You know. So it doesn't really matter what I feel. I'll just take the trade. The stochastic, everything looks good on my side. So we'll see. If I lose $100, then I'm going to be like, yeah, that's what you did. It did break above the 2 to May. We made a flag, the 21 cross. Those are all pretty bullish signs for me. And I can just go to sleep on that and come back in an hour. You know, I don't even stress those trades. It is what it is. But that's okay. There's a live trade there on a Friday. They got me going. The 15-minute, the 5-minute is playing game. Is you know, playing ball. It's doing what we would like it to do. So far, so good. So, hey, shout out to Crypto Rick. I changed my name. God bless you, man. Cryptic Rick. We love you, man. Thank you. Sammy, you were too tired to see the cup and handy on the 5. I mean, this was kind of a cup, or this was a cup. Sammy, cup and handy, can't see his own signature move here of the cup and handle. There's a cup, could be a handle. I'm with you on that. Have a little bit of tea with me, eh? Have a little bit of tea with me. Well, Andy, send it to the upside. Looks like it's going to make a big pumpage. Let's go. Jolly Roger. Let's go. And she's soaring. She's soaring to the upside there. On her way to the upside. That's a fast 1%. 777s I just saw flash. They just flashed 10.777s. You may not have seen it, but if you stop the tape at one point, you will see it. That's the fastest $15, $17 you've ever made in your life. People wait tables for a $20 tip. I just made $27, $29 in under 15. I bet under a minute now at this point, right? Somebody send me, somebody stop me. Like the mask for Jim Carrey. I can't stop, won't stop. And again, it's just a Friday. They could easily dump this and I'll lose it all. I don't like to brag about a tiny move. And again, don't call me a hero if we pump, or a genius. Don't call me a loser if we lose. This is just a day of trading for me. It's just a small set in the many, many thousands of trades that I've made online. So take it one step, one day, one movement at a time here with me. Shoulder, head, right shoulder, bit of an inverted head and shoulder too that could possibly propel you further to the upside for BTC. So I may speculate all I want, but until I get down, you can't say a word until I absolutely get down. No pants on Friday. Decided not to wear pants. That's not true. I absolutely, positively, without a doubt in my mind, have pants on. Let me tell you why I have pants on. Number one, we have a wonderful nanny that lives, that comes every day, 5 days a week. And, she's, she walks around the house, does her thing. I'm going to wear pants. You know what I mean? Out of respect. Like, I'm not that dude. So I wear pants every day. If you want to see the pants, they're really nice. I love these pants. Nice gray pants. You didn't think I had gray pants, right? The gray pants are classy. Fall skull in 7 years. I should do this on the weather.
So I'll show you Bitcoin to the upside, to the downside. Bitcoin going all around here in these ways. Bitcoin doing this and Bitcoin doing that. And oh, with Bitcoin.
And, you know, we could do that. We could possibly do that. You can only do that when you're winning a trade because people won't tolerate that when you're losing a trade. But right now we're winning the trade, so people don't care. They're like, okay, man. Okay, man. Do what you got to do, man. Look at this massive short squeeze for Bitcoin to the upside. And here we go. Shout out to Master Front of the House. I bought my first bit of Bitcoin from tips from being a waiter in a tea house. Working pot. Working pants in London town. Sammy, you're back to 3 p.m. UK time now, baby. I love you, man. I love you guys. I heard we restored faith into the stream. The time difference is big. It's big. It's a big deal. Shout out to the 2,000 beautiful souls here on the live. Shout out to the 508 likes. Shout out to the $558 in chat revenue. We love you, you. So much. Thank you. Double. Get the papers. Shout out to all my awesome people here on the live. We appreciate you. There's a bit of bearish divvy now forming on that 1 minute time frame. You can see that swing and that swing up. And again, this is sketchy business here, what we're doing. I don't look at this. I just let it cook. I don't look at it. I just cook with it, flip with it, get bit with it, hit with it. It's ubiquitous. My flow is ubiquitous. Don't get hit with this stimulus. Like Ken Kniff on a tariff. So can we go sideways here on the 5 minute time frame? Get ready to go boogie style, boogie down Bronx style to the upside. If you lived in NYC, then you know what I'm saying. That freestyle music took over. And if you like the vibes, then you know how it is. I had an ex-girlfriend. She loved that stuff, man. That freestyle. She was an Albanian girl from the Bronx. You know she loved her freestyle. You know she loved it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. When I say duck, I mean it. When I say duck, just watch out, all right? Duck. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Gotcha. You got to play games. You got to have some fun. That is a Nerf dart that I found on the table that I thought would be fun to blow dart at you. I'm out of my mind. And you should be too. And always have the kid in you. Never let go. Always have that dog in you, so to speak. If that makes any sense. Or just be a beautiful human being. My wife doesn't like when I refer to any man as a beast. She says it's just haram. That's what she said. You know. Anyway, so this double bottom here to the upside. Adam in a beautiful inverted head and shoulder. Look at that. Adam says no way. Adam says I'm going to pump. And once it crosses that daily, so Adam looks like it's calling the bottom of the entire market and risk on assets. Like someone with big money says I'm going to plow in. And Adam's a really good place to plow big money into on your 13% APY. As it also can appreciate in value. You started at 350 and you're getting APY, you've already, and it's hit 5, you've already made $1.50. You've already made 50% on your money on top of the APY. Don't you understand what's happening here? You're getting paid. Adam is really a wealth transfer device that people don't realize. It just on the low. Just stays there and it extrapolates money out of the regular world savings accounts and it gets put in Atom over time. And look at that. I mean, the daily looks like it's just getting started. Those stochastics are pushing to the upside. So how do you get into a daily candle that looks so scrumptious and beautiful? You look for a move on the smaller time frame. Now it's a bit exhausted at this point. And there's that 200 I added. It's a bit exhausted. You're away for the 21-day moving average. The 15-minute would be a good place to start. I would look for a flag on the 15, similar to what Bitcoin's doing. If you can get that, this whole market's going to, this could continue to rip. So Atom in its own little kind of move here People get nervous for Atom because they're like, well, if it's the bottom, they want to stake. And then there's this competition to get into Atom, and people keep buying it, and then the price goes up. The APY is so exciting, it creates a little frenzy when Atom gets low. This is what Atom has going for it. Now, it also creates a lack of pump when the market gets as frothy because people are staying inside unless people are selling. So it has a good effect and a bad effect on the price action over time. What we need is just a really healthy bull market that gives Atom its own speculative nature that people aren't really... And then you have the base of people staking. On top of the speculation, you get lack of sell pressure, and that's why it also can be good. We just need that. We need that overflow of liquidity for Atom to do what it used to do. But it does hold strong. There's something interesting here going on, and you want to watch this. The next target for Atom would be $5.50. So there's some light at the end of the tunnel here, despite what's happening in the rest of the markets. Very interesting times. White Rock is also something I've been watching. See, I drew that Adam and Eve, just kind of thinking, hey, maybe it does it. And so far, it's on the way to make that Adam and Eve complete and do what it said it's going to do. Consolidating, this thing could bump. A 94% gain, and I don't own any, but it's just something I've been watching closely, and, a lot of buys right there, too. Look at that, 14,000, 1,000 just a minute ago. And again, I have nothing to do with the project. I don't know the people. There's a sell. I tend to get this gravitation towards something that's out of nowhere. I don't know why, but my mind has got me thinking and watching this a little closer than normal. So I can't tell you why. I can't explain it. Is it a know-how, a notion? I just follow my intuition, and it tends to pay. Okay, Bitcoin. Still, not amazing, not the worst. Handling the divergence pretty nicely. If it flags out here, we're going to continue to get a monster move. And this could actually end up being the play here for BTC, but we're already in. No need to stress. And this is a competition trade. This is a competition trade. I repeat, this is a competition trade. So let's go. So everyone said the Fed is about to come and speak. Okay, let's see here. Friday, FOMC bar, revised consumer sentiment. Let me double check here. My team, do we see the Fed speaking? Sean, do we see the Fed speaking? Jamie? I'll look at my DMs here to see if there's anything coming, and I'll take a look. It is Friday, though. Jerome speaking on a Friday. For real, for real? We'll see. You guys all never doubt me. Yeah, he's live at 11:20. It looks like he's going to be live. We just had a conference in Virginia. It's not really a big deal. I gotta hear, though. He's supposed to be on like right now. I gotta hear. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. Some people speculate some type of dovish behavior here. The market's insinuating something brewing. And again, just watch that 5 minute. We're now inside of the cycle zone. Well, we wait for this cycle to, these are the cycle is the 21 crossing, the 200. That's my, the model. But there's a cycle in the model, right? And we watch the cycle play out. That's how I learn the model inside of a cycle, right? It's a cycle. It plays over and over again, right? It cycles through the same behaviors over time. I was able to find the cycle, see the cycle. So I told you I'm the king of 3%. Dang, I had it. I was just up 3%. Oh, man. Right then when I said it, and then they dumped it. And then they dumped the price. And again, if I get stopped out, so be it. What's the, I don't like to lose, but the risk is like $100. So we're not. Jerome, there's a thing. This is the thing brewing over here. And let's take a look, too, at the Forex job report just for you. Bitcoin dumping right now. Not looking amazing. I flipped that trade red now. Back to 0, 12. I don't love that, but I'll keep the 5 minute. But that 1 minute doesn't look great. Looks like it's going to come challenge the 2. If it loses it, then it's over. The dream is over, right? That's why I like it. BC to the moon, baby. To the moon over here. Yeah, I don't know why he's still not live at the channel. I got it ready on. If he does come on, we'll flip it to see something going on here. 1 minute looks like it may be challenged. I'll get my Jerome graph ready here up at the top, and we'll get it a smaller version of what I look at. I get rid of that stuff for now. If I'm happy, you say. Song's got those vibes, you know what I mean? Okay, I still don't see Jerome Powell. I don't know what he's doing. They're playing games here, you know. Bloomberg says yes. Everyone says yes. Forbes says yes. Maybe somewhere else. Market tanks on Jerome not showing up. What if he just didn't do it today? He was like, "Nah, I'm all set skis. I'm done ski. I'm not doing it no miles. I'm out. I'm walking away like a good soldier. I'm done like a good soldier. No, but I'm walking away. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I just can't do it anymore," he said. Today I resign. Today I am resigning. So they've moved it to 11:30 in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. No spamming, please. Thank you, Lakochi. Don't make Lakochi spam. No spamming. Then I'll have to unspam. I'll have to take Lakochi out for spamming the word. No, I'm just joking. I'm just messing around. I love you, Lakochi. I'm just trying to make you laugh. Hit that like button for Sam and the lifers. Yeah, when jobs are great. Yeah. That would be amazing. So let's see, man. We're approaching a crucial time here in the markets. Hey, what are your thoughts on BTC? I see a head and shoulder on a 1 hour time frame over here. Hey, calm down, huh? Hey, paisano. I know I see kind of, shoulder, head, right. I see the similar thing going on. Yeah. Agreed. We see eye to eye here. We see eye to eye here over here. Hey, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin? I see a head and shoulder. Oh, yeah, same thing. What are they up to 88K again? Anything could happen. I like 5 minute battling the 200 MA. That's all that matters over here. You lose that, it's a wrap. It's over. And we're just resistance. 56 seconds till we see Jer Powell. Might even see him right now. I see him. You may not see him, but I see him. Let's see what's happening here. As you can hear him in the background, coming on in here. I like the music for him, but
slower but still solid growth outlook. At the same time, surveys of households and businesses report dimming expectations.
Horrible
higher uncertainty
sound as usual.
Survey respondents point to the effects of the new federal policies, especially related to trade. We are closely watching this tension.
It's time. Get ready to dive into one of the most powerful tools.
Policies and their likely economic effects become clearer.
Sorry.
We will have a better sense of their implications for the economy and for monetary policy. Looking across many indicators, the labor market appears to be broadly in balance and not a significant source of inflationary pressure.
Why does he come here and do
this? This morning's
this?
jobs report showed the unemployment rate at 4.2% in March, still in the low range where it has held since early last year. Over the first quarter, payrolls grew by an average of 150,000 jobs per month. The combination of low layoffs, moderating job growth, and slowing labor force growth has kept the unemployment rate broadly stable.
That hurt my ears, man.
Turning to the other leg of our dual mandate, inflation has declined sharply from its pandemic highs of mid-2022. it has done so without the kind of painful rise in unemployment that has often accompanied periods of tight monetary policy that are needed to reduce inflation. More recently, progress toward our 2% inflation objective has slowed. Total PCE prices rose 2.5% over the 12 months ending in February. Core PCE prices, which exclude the volatile food and energy categories, rose 2.8%. Looking ahead, higher tariffs will be working their way through our economy and are likely to raise inflation in coming quarters. Reflecting this, both survey and market-based measures of near-term inflation expectations have moved up. By most measures, longer-term inflation expectations, those beyond just the next few years, remain well anchored and consistent with our 2% inflation goal. We remain committed to returning inflation sustainably to our 2% objective. Turning to monetary policy, we face a highly uncertain outlook with elevated risks of both higher unemployment and higher inflation. The new administration is in the process of implementing substantial policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. Our monetary policy stance is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties we face as we gain a better understanding of the policy changes and their likely effects on the economy. It is not our role to comment on those policies. Rather, we make an assessment of their likely effects, observe the behavior of the economy, and set monetary policy in a way that best achieves our dual mandate goals. We have stressed that it will be very difficult to assess the likely economic effects of higher tariffs until there is greater certainty about the details, such as what will be tariffed, at what level, and for what duration, and the extent of any retaliation from our trading partners. While uncertainty remains elevated, it is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. The size and duration of these effects remains uncertain. While tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation, it's also possible that the effects could be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome would depend on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored, on the size of the effects, and on how long it takes for them to pass through fully to prices. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to make certain that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation problem. We'll continue to carefully monitor the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We're well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy.
You can hear how he's ending, right?
It is too soon to say what will be the appropriate path for monetary policy. We understand the benefits of a solid economy where workers can find jobs and inflation is low and predictable. We also understand that elevated levels of unemployment or inflation can be damaging and painful for communities, families, and businesses. That is why we at the Fed will continue to do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
I told you he was plateauing. I know when he ends, by the way, how he talks. Why here? Why now?
Thank you for being here. This feels like quite a moment to be speaking with you. I want to thank you for your time. He's got it. I want to thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to speak with this group of business journalists. Also, like
I don't want to cover the lady to be rude. I don't want people to think, oh yeah, that's what he did.
Make this event possible.
When she speaks, I'll move it over. Sir,
how's your week been?
Just fine, thank you. So far, so good.
Thank you.
Chair Powell, yes, thank you so much for being here and taking our questions. You were talking about the economy as being a very strong economy. You characterized inflation as coming down, employment as being very strong still. However, President Trump, earlier this week when asked about the market volatility we've been seeing, said the volatility was, quote, to be expected. This is a patient that was very sick. We inherited a terrible economy. A lot of voters did and do agree with that assessment, or at least in part. I'm wondering how you would respond to that assessment and the disconnect between the story of the data and
I don't discuss. He's going to be like, I don't discuss.
Sure.
I don't
So
discuss.
let me
He is
just
going
be
to.
clear at the start. I make it a practice not to respond to any elected
There it
officials'
is.
comments.
There
So
it is.
I don't want to be seen to be doing that. It's just not appropriate for me. But
Done.
the situation, I think, is this, and people, when they're surveyed, they are unhappy about the economy. That seems to largely
Look, a head and shoulder, head, right shoulder, goodbye. No love.
Inflation was high, 2021.
No love. Bitcoin going to dump right now. Look at that.
Inflation is now back down to much more normal levels. Unemployment is low. The economy is
Let's get
growing,
bounced right
but
there.
People are still experiencing that high price level. In other words, prices don't go down. They know they're paying much more for the basic necessities of life.
Yep.
And they're right that they are, and they're not happy about it, and they're right not to be happy about it. So I think that accounts for the negative sentiment. We, of course, we're looking at inflation, which is the change in prices, and we're seeing that has come down quite a bit, and that, unemployment is actually low. It's sort of very close to measures of maximum employment, and the economy's growing. So all those statistics are good, but the price increases of the past few years are weighing on people's budgets.
So I'm from Milwaukee, and I've been talking to business leaders, executives, and consumers in our community, our region, for the last few weeks, mostly before this week's news. Chairman, they're troubled and they're nervous. One business owner told me, if there's a hint of a recession, we're cooked. And he asked me to share that with you. What's your response?
So I guess I would say...
Imagine if I said that about my business.
That the incoming data right through this morning's employment report, which
you got to have more belief in yourself than that.
March 12, they took the data.
Guys, no belief in himself.
Still shows a solid economy. Unemployment's still low. I understand the uncertainty that's weighing on people. You ask about a recession. We don't actually, we don't make a probability forecast about likely
shoulder, head, right shoulder now dumping. See that?
Forecasters do.
Wanted to see if the flag could break out. Retest, boom.
From very low levels.
By the retest.
It's not something that anybody now is forecasting, or some people are starting to. And so there's not much more I can say about that. I realize that the uncertainty is high, and what we've.
That's when you do good things. When the uncertainty is high, you buy stuff. You know what I mean? You go against the grain.
We're just going.
Again, I'm not a financial advisor. That's what I would do.
To rest, though, and we're just going to have to see that through.
At a congressional hearing last year, one of the U.S. representatives said that you were pretty boring, and you thanked him and said that you considered that a very high compliment. And in fact, I feel like it's one of the roles of the Federal Reserve, especially since the housing crisis, to be kind of
another
balance,
nothing burger, intellectual pat on the back.
These
are such wasted time conversations sometimes.
That you can experience with the economy. Very steady, no surprises, very reliable. In a moment like this, which also has a lot of drama and unpredictability, but it is not necessarily from an economic crisis. It's by design, it's political. How do you see your role in this moment?
So I think all of the values that you touched on are in fact the values that we try to live by. We're driven by,
seems scripted, no?
Careful thought.
As if it was done in the, like they had this already. I don't know, it seems scripted. That seems scripted.
We try to stay as far as we can from the political process. We don't look at political cycles or things like that. So, and I think people expect that from us. They expect us to tell the truth, and that's what we're going to do. But at the same time, we don't want to be part of the broader political discussion about the wisdom of policies that are not assigned to us. We're not responsible for trade policy, immigration policy, fiscal policy. So we don't comment on those. Decisions are made by others, and what we do is we use our tools to try to achieve the goals that Congress assigned us.
Don't forget about Bitcoin Las Vegas. Jump onto today QR code.
So I like to think
on the other part of the screen there.
A source of calm, rational analysis, and also of stability. That's really what the business that we're in is providing: financial and macroeconomic stability to the public. That's really our purpose.
So how can businesses and individuals and the Fed make plans for the future when so much is being dictated by the actions of a single person? And do you see yourself as the consoler-in-chief on economic matters?
No, I think, take a step back. What's happening is, as I mentioned, the new administration is making, significant policy changes in trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. And you're still just a couple of months into the administration, and that process will take place. And at a certain point, the new policies will be on the table. They will be having the effects they're going to have on the economy, and uncertainty will decline. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty about where all that's going to sort out, the forms it will take, and what the economic effects will be. If you fast forward a year from now, the uncertainty should be much lower. The actual effects of the policies should then be pretty manifest and clear. So I think I understand why it just is highly uncertain, both what the policies will turn out to be, exactly what they'll turn out to be, and also what their effects will be in the near term. We just have to go through that process, and it is just kind of a manifestation of our election cycle and a new administration coming in with new policies.
I mean, given all of the change happening and the fact that we are in a period where things have not settled in yet, and that the Federal Reserve and you as chair are very projection, data-driven, policy-driven, how do you handle a moment like now? I mean, can you tweak your plans and projections? Do you just do you have to reset them?
So, what we've had since in the last few months is from the staff,
perfect in every way, though.
Rather, they wouldn't call it a forecast.
Sad thing is they have to claim they're perfect to be right, but they can't be right. They're not perfect.
That's kind of how we've been thinking about it.
Treachery.
So it's a good time to take a step back and let things clarify. That's why it's just too soon to say what the appropriate monetary policy response will be to these new policies. It is just too soon to say. We can't say with any confidence today. So that's what we're doing. We've taken a step back, and we're watching to see.
Got to get back above the 200 May and hold it.
And the ways in which they will.
We lost the sauce, which is odd right there on the 5.
Fortunately, our policy stance is in a good place for us to do that. We're probably moderately restrictive, let's say. So it's not really tight policy, but which is
anything could happen right now.
It's a bit above target. So
back above like that. Look at that. Boom.
Address whatever may come.
Crazy.
In the meantime, I'd say we're waiting for greater clarity before we consider adjustments.
Business owners in Wisconsin have told me that they can't make their plans. They want to expand. They want to build a new facility. They want to hire or do whatever the future calls for. They say, we're trying to look around the corner.
Go ahead and do it. Stop being afraid. Believe in yourself.
What's around the corner?
Oh, my
God.
God.
Like they're in the same position as you are a little bit.
People are shook ones, man. If I did that, my business wouldn't be here. Your business will. So you're basically telling me that your business won't survive multiple presidencies. I believe my business will.
Governors.
If your business will survive multiple presidencies, then you're going to survive.
But again, it's a process. We're going through it, and I think we will know when we know what the policies are exactly and what their implications will be for the economy.
Back to the top of the channel, look at that.
Clear, and I think that'll be a time when people can make decisions. In the meantime, though, I get it. We're hearing that a lot from people, and we are kind of in the same place, which is waiting for clarity about what our policy path should be.
It might be months away.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
As you're talking about placeholders right now and having something in the place when there's so much that we don't know, it does occur to me that this is not the first economic shock that you have steered the markets and the economy through. Obviously, there was COVID almost exactly 5 years ago. It seems similar in certain ways with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of shock, also potential disruptions to prices and to supply, which is very much in the Federal Reserve's wheelhouse. I mean, from where you sit, can Liberation Day be compared to kind of the economic effects of COVID? Are they totally different, somewhat related?
I think each situation is different. There was COVID. There was also then, in the response to COVID, then there was high inflation, and then there was soft landing, and then there was, and now we have new administration.
They gave out tons of money,
policies, and every situation, it kind of rhymes, but it's not exactly the same thing.
That's a rejection right there.
What we face is what I mentioned in my remarks.
83
is you
100
actually have
rejection.
risks for higher unemployment and higher inflation, and that's difficult for a central bank because our tools, which consist of interest rates, either slow down or speed up the economy over time, and higher unemployment would call for speeding up the economy, and higher inflation would call for slowing it down. So you can be in a situation, if we find ourselves in that situation, we look at how far each of the two variables is from its goal, and we ask ourselves, how long would it take to get back? And we weigh those things.
But you wouldn't know.
Decision about what to do. But there's no question you
have no idea what you're doing. Like you just stated that you have no clue.
We faced high inflation.
Anyone who has any scientific process in their life.
For the people that we serve, but
if you listen to what he just said,
we knew we needed to raise rates.
Says he has no idea what he's talking about.
During the pandemic, we knew what we needed to do. It was very clear the direction that we needed to take. We needed to take with force, and we did.
It's almost a situation potentially where the dual.
What do you mean, give away all the free money?
Itself.
The two goals are, as we say,
you brought the interest rate to zero?
They may be. I'd say that's not what we're seeing right now, but it's the effects at the margin right now would be for higher inflation and perhaps higher unemployment, but that's a marginal effect. I would say you're not in a situation like we were in the 1970s where the two goals were really both pulling in opposite directions and required. That's where, it's just very hard for a central bank to be the answer to a situation like that. But that's not the situation we're really in today.
One of the questions from the audience that we had is, if unemployment takes off and inflation takes off, which lever do you go for? Which lever do you, what do you do?
So we actually have we have a document called our consensus statement, or the longer version is Statement on Longer Run Goals and Monetary Policy Strategy. And the 6th paragraph of that actually contemplates when the two goals are in tension. And what it says is, think about how far each variable is from its goal, and think about how long it would take for each to get back. So in a way, it's an equation. You're comparing two quantities which each have two variables.
Inverted head and shoulder.
You look at that and you think, what do we need to do? And typically this doesn't happen very often, but if one of them is further away, then you would focus on that one. In the case of high inflation, they actually both pointed in the same direction. The labor market was overheated and inflation was very high. So both of those called for tight monetary policy. This could be different, but again, we're not actually facing that today.
I feel like there's another tension inherent in your job, which is that you're looking at the macro economy, at the global economy really, and the U.S. places in it, but also the data you're looking at is very profoundly human, as Jim has been pointing out. Jobs, I think, and prices are probably the two most human pieces of data, and certainly in our day-to-day experience, probably the things that loom the largest. How do you reconcile those two things when you're looking at the data, like both the global markets and knowing that the data represents a lot of lives and jobs and egg prices and things like that?
So I think at the Fed, we always keep a focus on the people that we serve, and we know and are very conscious daily that the things that we do have a real effect on people's lives. We know that, and it really does focus the mind. And I think if you talk to people at the Fed, there's a very strong commitment to serving the public as well as we possibly can. Economic events are just very, very unpredictable at times, and there are shocks that you can't see coming. But nonetheless, our job is to, whatever happens, use our tools to bring the economy back to stability, back to price stability, back to maximum employment. And that's what we do. But you're right. We try to keep everybody in the room with us when we're thinking about what to do.
So in response to the last round of tariffs, Harley-Davidson, which is based in Milwaukee, moved some production to Thailand. Now the company might be whipsawed again by the new tariffs. Could be really devastating for sales, employment, for the future of that company.
Could be.
And could be. Say to companies like Harley-Davidson and their workers.
So it just isn't. I really want to stick.
It's not making any sense.
I mean, we have this great thing called our independence of monetary policy. And that's critical for us to be able to do our job.
These people are FUD worshippers right here.
To not
straight up
succumb to the temptation to want to be a player on issues that are not assigned to us.
See?
And trade policy is one of those. There are many, many issues that people love to try to pull us in on, almost every issue really. And we just need to stick to our knitting, not get pulled into those things. And so Trade policy is a classic one. Energy policy is another. Climate change, many immigration is not really. Although all of those things have economic implications, and it gets argued that way. But if we treated those as our job, the case for our independence would disappear. So I really can't comment on. I mean, we hear the same stories like that. But honestly, the policymakers who are charged with that, they're probably hearing the same stories too, and they're reaching a judgment about what's in the best interest of the country in the long run. That's what they are doing, I guess, and that's, so it's not for us to comment on that.
What happens inside the Fed at a moment like right now, with so much change and
they have coffee and tea and crumpets?
When you're watching things unfold, what does that look like, practically speaking? What are people doing inside the building?
So I'm very proud to work with the people.
They're wearing pants.
I can tell you that in times like this, or times like the pandemic, global financial,
I zing that one in there.
Step forward and they say, "We've got this." These are career people who were here for the global financial crisis. They've got 25 years, 35 years of experience with crises, and they step forward and it's just incredible what they can do and how good they are. It's a great honor to work with them. So right now isn't that situation. We have the situation we have. So our trade people and our inflation people and our macroeconomists are all working hard to kind of digest the news of this week and try to filter that into.
I like Jerome Powell. What do you mean? He's awesome.
And policymakers are.
I never said I didn't like that dude. Where do people come up with this stuff?
Everything we can about what's happening and lots of outside analysis too.
Guy's
we don't
great.
have an FOMC meeting until May 6 and 7, so that's really a process that lasts several weeks. But and we're not quite at that stage yet. But we're kind of thinking ahead to that and working through all of that. I will say though, it feels like we don't need to be in a hurry. It feels like we have time
really?
to. Yes. It feels like we don't. No, I mean it's like I said. You have inflation is going to be moving up and growth is going to be slowing, but it isn't really. To me, it's not clear at this time what the appropriate path for monetary policy will be, and we're going to need to wait and see how this plays out before we can start to make those adjustments.
Question from the audience. One of our SEBU members is: are you in contact with other central bankers in other countries at a time like this? Yes, pretty frequently. Absolutely. I mean, and the same was true during the other
telling him what to do.
Not only that, though, we do meet very regularly. The IMF World Bank meetings here in Washington twice a year. We go to Basel multiple times a year to meet. That's all central bankers. And there are also G20 meetings, G7 meetings where the central bankers are there. So we're kind of regularly meeting and talking. And when we're not doing that, we're also texting each other. And
is there a group chat?
I'm not at liberty to say. No, there's not.
And have you talked to those central bankers this week?
Recently, yeah, I didn't want to get too specific about this, but yes, I have.
What's their sentiment? Can you characterize that?
I'd rather, again, I don't comment on what my international colleagues say, or it's not appropriate. But we're talking about events, we're talking about the implications for the economy. We're
it's not appropriate.
Discussing what we're hearing from markets and from business people and for from the elected governments too. It's all the things you would expect us to be talking about on a regular basis. It's one of the best things about this role is that the central banks have a lot. We're all non-political, so we think about things in quite similar ways, and they're real bonds. We're not lobbying each other ever on policy. That's just not a thing, because we do our policy here, they do their policy there. But we develop really, really good relationships and bonds with them, and it's one of the real pleasures and benefits being able to talk about this, just not only with the great people at the Fed, but also with the leaders around the world.
I mean, it's interesting because it is a job of enormous responsibility and power, but it's also a job. How would you characterize the job of Fed chair? Like, how is it as a job?
Honestly, that's what it is. I really feel just like another person doing that job.
Really?
Yeah.
You just like...
That's how it is. I'm doing a job. I have a job to do. I actually really like the job. I like it a lot. I enjoy it. It can be stressful at times. Nonetheless, incredibly interesting, great people to work with, really important. You know, what more could you want? But that's what it is. And, you know, again, I'm blessed by working with great colleagues who are really committed to getting it right. I mean, fully appreciate how important it is that we get it right. And do everything we possibly can to bring the best thinking, the best analysis, and debate things, you know, over and over until we feel like we're in the right place. At the same time, there is no certainty in this. You can be wrong because the economy can zig when you thought it was going to zag.
So your term as Fed chair ends about a year from now. What do you think about your job security?
I fully intend to serve all of my term.
Excellent. I mean, as we're getting close to wrapping up, I did want to ask something a little bit out of the box. I think because you do have a position of such great responsibility, people are very curious about you, and
just a quick in and out.
People tend to read into everything a Fed chair does, small gestures, word choice. I know it's part of our jobs in this room to pore over every word you choose. I did want to ask about one thing that I've wondered about for years, which is your tie. You always seem to wear a purple tie, and every time I think I've seen you, you've worn a purple tie, and I'm wondering if there's significance to that?
There's no idea what she's talking about, right?
At the beginning, the only significance was that I like purple ties.
Okay.
But I will say, you know, so then the next press conference, I reach for a blue tie or a red tie, and I go, maybe not, you know. And so I wind up wearing purple ties, and then it becomes a thing. And now I definitely wear purple ties all the time.
He doesn't want to be.
Okay.
But I felt like, you know, you didn't. It just felt a little awkward to be wearing one that was identified. We are strictly non-political. I can't stress that enough. We are not. It's not that we're bipartisan. We are non-political. We don't do that. And so purple was a good color for that. That's all. Plus, I like purple ties.
Sorry, be purple. I don't know.
I have one other Milwaukee question that I overlooked here, but in Milwaukee and other parts of the country, the housing market is out of whack. In our market alone, in southeastern Wisconsin, there's 5,000. The market's out of whack by like 5,000 houses that need to be on the market for it to have equilibrium. And a report this week said tariffs could tack on some $6,000 to the cost of building a new home. How long are people going to sit on their cheap mortgages from COVID? Thank you very much. And before they move on, before the market frees up.
So you have several things there. The first is we just haven't built enough housing, and we haven't kept up with the demand for housing. So there's an underlying shortage. Before the pandemic, you know, there was a real housing shortage. And by the way, that's happening in many comparable democracies around the world. The second thing is, you know, lock-in, as you say. There were very, very low mortgage rates during COVID, and people are kind of locked in. It would be very expensive to move, and that'll of course wear off over time. You also mentioned, you know, the costs of materials that might be imported, you know, lumber and nails and things like that. And yeah, and also labor. A lot of labor from in the home building business has been traditionally immigrant labor. So yeah, the sort of new build market, it may face some cost pressures as well. That may very well be the case. That's what we're hearing from home builders, for example, both on the labor side and on the materials side. But even once these short-term things happen, we're still going to have not enough houses. And so it's all, you know, I think for a long time, we're still going to see upward pressure on housing prices, you know, maybe until population growth slows or until we catch up.
You mentioned that we're kind of in a period of waiting right now to see how policy ripples out through the economy. How long do you expect that to take? How long do you expect these big policy changes to show up in our day-to-day lives, in prices and supplies and things like that?
I mean, for a while, we didn't know what was coming on April 2. Now we know what came on April 2. We don't know. There's a lot more to be said about how all that shakes out. But we've come through that, and I think you now know that the tariffs are larger than people were generally expecting. That much you know now at this point. And you'll know more as you start to see the effects on the economy. So, as the months go by, it's hard to say exactly when you'll know. But, clearly that learning process is ongoing. We're just seeing that these are new policies, not just the tariff policies, but the other ones as well. There'll be, important fiscal legislation coming up fairly soon. And there'll be regulatory changes, significant regulatory changes. You have to really look at all of that to see what the overall effect will be. So I can't give you a date, but all of that is now kind of coming into place at sort of the speed you would expect policy changes to be, and then we'll begin to see the real economic effects as the year goes on. But again, I can't give you a really specific date. Is the fiscal legislation the tax cuts? Well, yes. I mean, I know they're contemplating, and we don't comment on fiscal policy, but what I read is that they're contemplating, making the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act cuts permanent, and also perhaps some other things as well. We wouldn't be. We have a sort of a placeholder for that too, but that's really not ours to comment on. But that's what I was talking about. Yes.
So I have a question from a friend in Milwaukee who said she has clients that have deals ready to go, businesses that are ready to launch from their garage.
Every time this guy talks, it's negative. He said one positive thing.
They're just stuck in their garage.
He said one positive thing.
How long do you think?
People that can't move, can't be. Come on, man. You have one story of a guy that's rocking and rolling.
Have on the private equity.
Are you just around people that sit there? He goes home and goes, "Oh, I wish I got better."
They're just kind of waiting and for clarity.
Sound like a bunch of sad people, man. You gotta grind, everyone. Listen to this. This is the story of life right here. You cannot wait for the economy. You cannot wait for the president. You can't wait. Yes, there'll be some effects. Yes, your business will go through ups and downs.
It will.
But as long as you keep working hard, as long as you build a work ethic, you'll have nothing. None of this will phase you. 30 years from now, you'll be grinding just like you were with a whole new set of, administration. A whole, so.
At a certain point, we'll know enough to know what the uncertainty will decline, and we'll be able
just
to
keep pushing yourself positively every single day.
What the policies are and what their effects are.
The guy is a drain.
But you're right. We hear the same thing from businesses and from people that they're kind of waiting and seeing. There's a lot of waiting and seeing going on, including by us, and that just seems like the right thing to do.
A lot of up and down. Look at this price action. It's insanity.
What economic indicators are you watching right now? I mean, very famously, you look at the CPE and obviously the CPI and things like that. But are there any economic indicators in this moment?
What a question to ask. Does that make any sense to you?
Watching, focusing.
It's like asking a mathematician, like what addition he's.
The basic two big data pools are the data around prices and around employment. And we get in the employment area, we get just really that's an area.
Is this obvious? I don't know. I thought that's what this whole thing was
about.
Although
the survey response rates have been.
I don't know. I'm not trying to be rude here.
A lot of different data, and it's not just unemployment. It's participation. It's by age group and things like that. It's wages. It's many different things. It's jobs. It's quits. All the job creation, quits, openings, all those things. So that's one thing. On inflation, we target PCE, personal consumption expenditure inflation, not CPI, and the two are broadly they move they move together. But 25 years ago, the Fed switched to PCE. The public looks at CPI. It's kind of a little bit of a thing, but because we think
think
really
again. We think.
Way to capture
I don't know.
The inflation, the cost pressures that households and businesses feel. We think it's a better measure, and that's what we look at. But they're not that different. I mean, they look at different measures. Ultimately, they're pretty close together. Those things, on growth, you look at what's happening with consumer spending. The economy is overwhelmingly driven by consumer spending. So you look at how are consumer surveys, how are they feeling, how are they spending? Sometimes the surveys are very negative, but they keep spending. That's been happening really for a while. People spent right through the pandemic, and they spent right through this time of higher inflation. They kept spending, and forecasters kept thinking, like us, kept thinking that consumption would slow down. But that's a really critical thing. After that, business investment is a big chunk, and you look at that, and that is also susceptible to sentiment. Businesses, if they don't know what to do, they're not going to do an acquisition. They're going to hold off on building a factory or a plant or hiring people and things like that. So we look at, I could go on for a long time. We look at a lot of data, and we try to make sense. We also talk to people who are in the real economy. I grew my career was mostly in the private sector, talking to people who ran businesses. And for me, the story doesn't come together until I actually hear from people who are in the economy doing things and what they're feeling and seeing, and then it sort of fits together better.
Is this like via the Beige Book or just?
Beige Book, thank you for mentioning the Beige Book, and I hope you read it.
I love the Beige Book.
See, that's great. Everyone should read the Beige Book.
I feel like that was scripted right there.
Mid-FOMC
That was
cycle,
scripted.
and it's all the 12 reserve
Don't forget to say the Beige Book thing.
Context, what they're
And add it
saying
at the
about
end,
what's going on in
remember?
the economy. So if you want to know, you can look at the national data. but
Maybe
if you
I'm
wanna know
wrong,
what's
but it
going
seems
on
a bit
in
odd.
regions and at different industries, you look at the Beige
Oh,
Book.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
a critical thing.
I'll make you
and
look smart,
Actually, the
don't
Reserve
worry.
Bank system that we have is an enormous strength of the Federal Reserve System. We have these 12 reserve
That's a
banks
symmetrical
with
triangle
their
about to
own,
break down, likely.
economics departments and
It'll go either way, though.
participants on
It's
the
50-50.
FOMC. So that's a great thing to look at.
I'd like to ask you about another body of work that many of us know that you're familiar with, and that's the Grateful Dead. So, question for you, sir. American Beauty or Terrapin Station?
American Beauty.
Well, it's not even a pause.
Not even close.
That was
Ask me a
so
hard one.
fast.
Working
No,
Man's
that's my era. That's my era.
Working Man's Dead
Yes.
or Europe 72?
Oh, both. Yeah,
come
that's
on.
my era. We're in the same era here. So that's for me. It's late '60s to mid '70s. So you're.
Touch of Grey, what do you think?
It was their only hit, but it's a good song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally,
Are we going to do this?
I feel like you're speaking another language.
there's a well-known Grateful Dead bootlegger who, with I believe the permission of the band, Dick's Picks, who's put
Yeah.
out. So, what's your recommendation of those hundreds of?
I
Dick's Picks?
don't have any Dick's Picks. Like I said,
Come on.
my real interest was late '60s to mid '70s.
Yeah.
And I saw them a bunch of times, and I know every note on every song from that era. But since then, I've been busy.
It'll go either way right here.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here, and we appreciate your work.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
And we're out of there like we're just gone so fast, right? Unbelievable. Shout out to everybody that kicked it with me there while we listened to Jer Powell. God bless you. And we'll bring that music back up and running for you here. All right. Let's take a look at Bitcoin before I jump on out. So we did lose the 500 200 MA. I would have been stopped out of that trade. It didn't go per, but it looks like we may still pump. Let's take a look. Maybe I still got held off. Let's take a look here at what happened. Oh, I'm still in the trade. I must have given myself proper spacing. Yeah, 1 minute 200 MA is still holding us down. And again, this is what we are left with. This is what we're left with right here. This symmetrical triangle, which is likely going to break down. At the end of the day, and I've been seeing a lot of these the last few weeks. Length of the base of the triangle. Hold control, snatch another one. Yeah, and you're either dumping somewhere down here to 81, 82K, or you're breaking back up to about 84. We'll see what happens. These mainly dump, so I wouldn't be surprised if this takes a dump to the downside. Very messy price action. I'll take a nap, rest my mind, see what's happening, and come back to this. We got the trade cooking. We'll let it cook. Hey, I might show up to a win and make gains in my sleep. You never know. Shout out to everybody here on the live. Thank you for jumping on in. I got to do the macro technical analysis video, and then I got to jump on out of here, rest my eyes. May God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. Please jump on into Bitcoin Las Vegas. Hit the link right there. Also, if you want to join class, I teach class tomorrow, the last Saturday of every month. There's a link to class at the bottom of this video. I'll also go live maybe tonight one more time just to kind of talk about class one more time just in case, because I forgot my class, horrible day to forget class, my logo there, but I'll get it all up and running. It's all on my drive. I just forgot to plug it in. I knew something was missing this morning. God bless everybody. Thank you so much for jumping on in. Appreciate each and every one of you for being here, sharing your most precious asset with me, and that is your time. I'll see you possibly tonight. You never know, but I'll see you in the trading group. God bless. Thank you. Secret to success is getting started. What are you going to start today? I'm going to start it now to get my brain ready for more.